Chapter 9 is about ethical leadership, work goals, and performance appraisals. Just to remind you, we're doing all of the best practices in business ethics, and these best practices are coming out of the business ethics and the management literature. So we're at the point now of talking about ethical leadership and what does an ethical leader do at work. This chapter has 13 benchmark items, beginning with item number 41, which is our organization's commitment to ethics is reflected in specific managerial actions and not just rhetoric. The point of that benchmark is to say that it's one thing to tell people to be ethical, but it's something else to behave ethically. So you want to make sure that your actions support your words, because the employees are going to look at your own actions and whether your actions are ethical. So you have to be able to walk the talk. And we want managers to be able to behave the most ethical way at work and not just expect it of others. Benchmark item number 42. Our managers exhibit ethical traits in their private lives outside work. Work is a very integrated place, so the way you behave outside work influences how people at work perceive you and respond to you and respond to the type of person you are. So we want to make sure that in being an ethical leader at work, you're also ethical outside of work. If the employees think that you're an alcoholic or you're a drug abuser or if you abuse your spouse, it's going to be hard for them to really respect you at work. So the employees will judge you outside of work the same way that they judge you at work. And if you really want to be an ethical leader, you have to be able to live a nice life outside of work as well as while you're at work. Benchmark item number 43. At work, our managers are honest, credible, respectful, and fair. So think if somebody asks you, what does it mean to be an ethical leader? These attributes are specific ones that usually come to people's minds. In most people's minds, an ethical leader is an honest person. You're not lying to the employees, the customers, or the suppliers. An ethical manager is credible. People can trust you and believe in you. An ethical manager is respectful, and an ethical manager is fair. Fairness and justice is one of the most important ethical values historically. So most employees, if they say, is my manager ethical or not, what they think about is my manager fair? And if you're fair, they'll say you're ethical. So those are 4 attributes to really consider and to focus in on when you're improving your own ethical actions at work. Benchmark item number 44. Our managers encourage others at work to behave ethically. So on the one hand, you need to be an ethical person. On the other hand, to be an ethical leader, it takes more than just being an ethical person. It means you step out of your own shell that you have and you reach out and when you see unethical behavior at work, you stand up about it. If you see sexual harassment going on, you step up and you say, don't do that. If you find out that the accountants are cheating on the spreadsheets, you say that's unacceptable behavior. If you see product going out the door, you say that's damage. You say that's not right. So the idea is that you're encouraging others at work to behave ethically, not just yourself, because that's what leaders do. Benchmark item number 45. Managers take appropriate actions after employees share their ethical concerns. So a lot of people at work at Edgewood College will confide in me and come to my office and share information, and I'm their manager. To be really ethical, it's one thing for me to hear their concerns, but it's something else for me then to act on what they tell me. So to be a truly ethical leader, it means you're acting on the input that people tell you. Otherwise, people say, what's the use of bothering to tell that person? Because all they do is agree, but they never do anything about it. So an ethical leader is very action-oriented. Benchmark item number 46. Employees are surveyed about the extent to which they believe managers behave ethically at work. Most people do believe they are ethical, but sometimes we fool ourselves because not everybody perceives what we act as being an ethical thing, even though we think it's ethical. So therefore, what you want to do is survey your employees and ask them in the survey with a couple items, am I a fair person? Am I honest? Because once again, everybody is morally flawed. So you want to be clear that you're being perceived the way that you really are, and that you're reacting to everybody else's perceptions of you, because perceptions do matter a great deal at work. So you want to find out, how are my employees perceiving me? Because I think I'm ethical, and is that how I'm being perceived? A lot of times it's just miscommunication, and I might do something that I think is ethical, but somebody else thinks is unethical. And if they don't tell that to me, then I never know about that. And if I don't know about it, I can't change that person's perception. So you want to collect data through surveys. Benchmark item number 47. Our work goals are jointly determined by managers and their subordinates and linked to organizational objectives. So this is basic management by objectives. You're the manager, you know what your goals are for yourself, for your work unit, and for your employees, but you don't want to be an authoritarian dictator. Instead, you want to explain to the employees, these are the objectives of this organization, these are the objectives we have in our particular department or unit. What do you think you can do to help us achieve these goals? And then listen to the employees' input, and remember, you're still the boss. So if you think that the employee is not setting high enough goals, let's say you believe an employee can produce 20 widgets, and they say, my goal is to do 15, you can say, that's not enough. I think you can do better than that. But in reality, what happens, a lot of surveys have shown, is that employees will be very honest about what they think they could accomplish. And a lot of times they'll give a higher number than what the manager actually thinks, because the employee really knows how much they can accomplish in a day. So through management by objectives, you want to do this jointly and hear the employees' input in terms of what they think they can accomplish, and then you agree with it or you disagree with that. And if you disagree, you explain why, and you reach some consensus on that. And because the employee has input into it, they're more likely to do it, and they're more likely to respect it and believe that the goal is legitimate, rather than you just telling them what it should be. Benchmark number 48. Our work goals are specific, measurable, challenging, and attainable. The chapter talks about SMART goals. Too often managers will say, do your best. And then come performance appraisal times, you mark the employee off as not performing well, and they don't understand why. And it's because you weren't very clear about your work goals. So the work goals need to be very specific. By the end of this month, I want you to produce 20 widgets, and this goal is challenging to you. So if you just do the status quo goals, then work becomes very boring. So people like competition, and people do like to be challenged. So you want to make sure the goal is challenging, but it has to be attainable, because if you set a goal that's impossible to attain, a competitive person might cheat to do it. So you want to make sure that it's a challenging goal, but it's a reasonable goal. Benchmark item number 49. We use 360-degree performance evaluations to obtain a holistic perspective of an employee. So when you do employee surveys on their performances, it shouldn't just be your analysis of the employee if you're the boss, because a lot of employees act one way in front of the boss, but act differently when the boss isn't around. And you want to have an honest gathering of information about the employee's performance all the time. So for 360-degree performance evaluations, it means you ask the person's boss for feedback on the employee, you ask the employee's peers, people they work with all the time, and you ask the subordinates about the employee's performance. And then that gives you a very holistic view of the employee. Benchmark item number 50. Performance appraisals measure ethical behaviors and attitudes. People pay attention to scorecards. If the scorecard says, produce 20 widgets, and that's all that's on the scorecard, people will focus on doing 20 widgets. If the scorecard says, produce 20 widgets and be kind and responsive to your coworkers, then they'll be kind and responsive to the coworkers because they know they're getting measured on that. You might think that they should just normally be kind, but then you can say they just normally should produce 20 widgets. So you want to make sure that you're actually measuring ethical behaviors. So you want to be clear how to define behaviors. Is the person being honest? Are they being credible? Are they being trustworthy? And have that as part of the performance appraisals. Benchmark item number 51. Employees engaged in unethical behaviors are warned and disciplined. If somebody does something unethical, and if you don't do anything about it, people assume it's okay to do that. Let's take something simple like playing solitaire on the computer all day long. If you don't say anything about that, then people say, I guess it's okay to play solitaire on the computer all day long. So people need to be warned first that's not appropriate. You can do that at lunchtime, but not during your 4 hours in the afternoon. And then after they've been warned, they need to be disciplined if they do it again. If all you do is warn people, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, and you never really discipline them, then they just take advantage of you. Not everybody, but some people will. And then the people that take advantage of you, that spreads like a cancer in the organization because they say, hey, Tom can take advantage of the boss, why can't I? And you're going to encourage other people then to misbehave. So you want to first, once you catch somebody doing something unethical, first give them a warning and talk about it. Why did you do that? Wasn't there some other strategy? Why did you have to do the unethical thing? And then say, this is a warning. I'm giving you a formal warning. Don't do that again. And if they do that again, you need to discipline them and say, I'm going to deduct pay, or you're going to lose a merit promotion, or whatever kind of discipline makes sense in that particular situation. The final benchmark for Chapter 9 is ethical integrity is a critical factor when considering promotions. If you just talk about ethics, and even if you behave ethical, but there's somebody that's unethical and you promote them, it sends out a message throughout the organization that actually ethics really doesn't matter. So you want to make sure that the people that are promoted are ethical and that people that are unethical are not promoted. And you want to set that message in the corporate culture that this is a place that ethics does matter in promotion. So you want to be really clear about that. Once people know that somebody unethical can get promoted, then that really creates a very great corporate culture. I can remember one organization I was helping out once where they had a fantastic ethical corporate culture, and then all of a sudden things changed and people were cheating on expense reports and people were stealing product and all that. And they wanted to know, the executives wanted to know what happened in this organization. And what happened was that somebody was promoted who had cheated on their expense accounts. Everybody knew that person cheated on their expense accounts, and they were never punished for that, and instead they were promoted. And that just said, I guess cheating on expense accounts are okay. And if cheating on expense accounts are okay, I guess I can also not show up for work. And I guess I can also do this, and I guess I can also do that. So you really want to be clear that ethical people are the ones that get promoted. Of course, talent matters a great deal. So talented as well as being ethical. And that concludes Chapter 9.